Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Isaac. I'm just doing a little update on the channel and wanting to talk to you guys about something interesting. Now, this has been going on for a while, and I think that we should really have a good talk. I know I'm very small. I know that this particular issue is something that people have covered at large. What is this wonderful issue that's got me talking and that's got some of you worried that everybody's covered? Well, that's YouTube demonetization. YouTube is currently trying to limit the number of people that it's actually monetizing, that it's actually paying money out to. Now, don't take me as somebody who's complaining about it. I actually understand it pretty well. YouTube, for the most part, isn't really bringing in profit. Like it or not, the company is not bringing in as much money as it would need to actually please Big Daddy Google. But what I'm actually going to talk about is kind of a solution to it. Now, I know everybody is, either talking about merch or they're talking about going through and Patreon, Subscribe. These are all interesting options. They're all really good options. Merchandise especially, because honestly, when you get into Patreon, you get into Subscribe, you get people complaining about what is called e-begging. Meow. Yeah, hi cat. Moon Pie's over on the shelf above the computer, just going meow. Pay attention to me. But and the problem with this is that people tend to get tired of it, and they start making complaints, and they start having an issue. So, what is my solution? Well, my solution is actually to go to the stock market. I know that a lot of people are scared of the stock market, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're taught to be afraid of the stock market. Everybody can remember the cartoonish tales of people just losing all their money on the stock market because they made a horrible investment and it went downhill. Believe it or not, that actually hasn't happened, hi cat, since the Great Depression. Nowadays, there's actually legal safeguards for that. There are actually laws set in place to prevent that from happening. Unless you really do something really awful, like you try and invest in an upstart company, or you get scammed. Which is, by the way, why I would suggest, if you're going to look into investing, make sure to get a legitimate broker if you can, or better yet, if you don't have the money for that, I would always recommend Robinhood. That's what I used. That's what I still use. But just to tell you, just as a point, for this channel, especially myself, while I do have a merch shop, my plan personally is literally to invest. And buying shares of stocks and companies does a few things. One, it gives you a passive income that you don't have to work for. You just buy the share, or you invest so much money into a company and you start getting a monthly dividend or quarterly dividend, depending on the company you're buying. Which, by the way, it's always a good idea to investigate the people that you're buying. Always want to make sure that the company you're buying from is A, stable, B, of course, legit. Ford actually is a pretty good company to buy shares for, simply because they're cheap and they're fairly stable. $8 a share for 3.3 something dividend is actually pretty good. So I mean, for roughly the price of a burger, you can own a company share. And like I said, what this does is it provides passive income. Every quarter you're able to get a little bit of money. And at my level, it's not going to be much. But say if you have a few thousand, if you're one of the larger YouTubers and you've got a couple thousand, 10,000, 20,000 to throw at something, you can actually invest your money into these companies and actually get a sizable dividend every quarter, if not every month. In fact, if you diversify your portfolio where you're getting dividends from various companies throughout their quarters, because not every company actually has the same quarter, surprisingly enough. Each company sometimes has their own little individual quarter or calls that goes through. But believe it or not, investing actually would help a lot of YouTubers a lot. It would certainly make it so that they can preferably make enough money, especially if they start investing enough, where they don't necessarily have to keep asking for money all the time. I'm not saying that you can't donate to your YouTubers. I'm not saying that you can't do the subscribe or anything like that. I am saying that it's actually would be a bit more of a stable financial solution than just Patreon, than just Subscribestar. Because if we're being honest here, especially in a condition like we are now with the COVID-19 and the pandemic, not everyone has money to be giving people money every single month, like you have to do with Patreon, like you have to do with Subscribestar. If YouTubers have their own investment portfolios, that's income that's coming into them that they don't have to really work for. They don't have to beg for income because they already have income coming up. And here comes Kitty going, wow. Behind the TV. That's what Kitty likes to do. But they would have the ability, and I know I've repeated this out, but they would give them an ability to have independent funds. Two, especially if these larger YouTubers invest in Google. If you have enough shares in a company, your voice now starts to matter a lot more than if you were just a streamer. If you have investment in Google, if you have shares in Google, especially if you have a good sizable amount, you now have a voice in the company. You now have a voice in what that company does. Because that is part of the power that a shareholder has, especially a majority shareholder, is that you can vote on what a company does. You can have a voice on how clear a company is, what a company can and cannot do. And in fact, if a company starts doing something you don't like, you can actually sell your share, which is far worse to them than anything. There is nothing worse to a company than to have a mass sell-off of their shares. There is nothing worse to them than that. Because one, here's the thing. Selling people shares costs a company basically nothing. They don't have to advertise. They don't have to do anything. People will buy shares from them simply because they're stable, because they feel that it's a profitable business, and that they're guaranteed to either recoup their cost or they're going to get whatever dividend for it. But the problem for a company is when someone sells their share, that's money out of that company's pocket that they may or may not be even able to recoup. And the double part of this, if enough shares are sold, it drops the value of their shares exponentially. And there are people who are skittish enough that if they see the prices of a share drop, they will start selling their shares even worse, which can really do damage to a company. So one person selling a few shares at maybe a couple thousand, $10,000, $20,000, no big deal. But if that person starts selling their shares and their stock drops, and suddenly you've got $30,000 being sold, dollars worth of being sold to one person and another and another and another, it starts snowballing. And this can actually really cause a company to crash, even go bankrupt. So then at that point, you have companies trying to beg people to stay in as shareholders. So again, and that can actually give people the power to actually cause a company to do something. For example, if you don't like the fact that YouTube is not clear about its demonetization or its terms of service, if you're an investor in Google, you can essentially force them to be clear about their terms of service. You can literally say, hey, and an investor call and say, hey, I want these things to be clear. I want this company to do something about what's going on here. And they would actually have to listen to you. Because that is one of the biggest things. Shareholders and investors hold the purse strings of a lot of these companies. And a lot of people don't think about that, or they don't have the concept that, yeah, that can be you. Remember, when I said that Ford was literally the price of a McDonald's menu, that's not a joke. That's serious. One share at Ford is literally $8 to $9. You can buy a share in a car company, one of the oldest car companies in America, for $8 or $9. In fact, there are some brokers, like the one I talked about, Robinhood, where you don't even have to buy a full share. You can just say, I want to invest X number of dollars in. And you can get a portion of that share. You would still actually get a portion of that dividend. It would only be, of course, the proportion amount of the share that you've purchased, but you would still get a dividend. And I know that you guys are probably wondering what a dividend. Okay, a dividend, by the way, is the share of that company's profit. So you would get, per share, you would get 3.3 some percent of the company's share, or the company's profit, per shares that you owned. So if you only have like a share, it's going to be like 8 pennies. But if you own several hundred, it can actually be a lot more. But you can actually start doing investment very early on. It's not something that I would leave to being retirement. That's for damn sure. I'm going to tell you right now, do not leave investing until you're old as hell. Do not wait for that. Start doing it now. Because remember, understand, if you have shares that give you a dividend, you can actually improve your financial capacity now. So that, especially if you're like my age, you're in your late 20s, your early 20s, and you're just starting out, having shares that are that cheap available so that you start getting a passive income coming in is very, very helpful. Because that way, again, and this is actually really good for anybody. That way, let's say you get laid off from a company, you still have income. You still have a passive source of income that's coming in, that's helping you out and giving you a way out. Okay? That's what doing the stock market does. And I know that it's very confusing for a lot of people because the graphs go up and down, up and down. But trust me, especially if you're a YouTuber, you're used to that. You're used to seeing that graph going up and down, up and down, up and down, because that's your entire life. And my word to that is, look, you might worry about that if your whole intent was to buy that share and then sell it. Because in that case, you really want to just buy it at the lowest price you can and then sell it at the highest price. But if you're buying it for the dividend, you don't care about the thing going up and down all the time. What you care about is that dividend check, and that's all you should care about, is getting your dividend check at the end of that quarter. That's it. That's all you should care about. That's all you need to worry about, is getting your portion. That's it. Right now, me personally, because I stopped doing the stock market like an idiot a while back, I only have like $5 in NVIDIA, but I am slowly trying to get back. And that's literally what I'm trying to do, actually, to fund the channel, is I'm actually decided to get back into the stock market, to buy shares that give out dividends, to do this thing so that as the channel grows, as I'm able to do so, I can actually make it so that hopefully this channel will be self-sustaining. Regardless of what happens with monetization, regardless of Patreon or the merch, which we do have a merch store. If you guys want, or I'll just want to buy something from that, I'll link the description down below. Hell, if you're interested in starting in investing, I'll link a thing to Robinhood below. I have a link for that. I'm not paid for it. It's literally part of their program where you actually, if you refer somebody, Moon Pie, stop. Stop, buddy. Stop playing with the light. Thank you. But if you refer someone, you actually get a free share, which is actually really fun, which is actually really cool, because then you can actually get your friends to invest and all that mess. Plus, I mean, if you get something that's a little more expensive, you can actually sell it off, especially if it's a single share, and you can buy a whole bunch of another less expensive share, which actually would be kind of a really good idea, especially if you're first starting out. But like I said, always make sure, especially if you're going to invest in something that's stable. Invest in an already established company like Walmart or Coca-Cola. You know, something that you know has been around for a while and is not likely to go away. So that would be my advice to you, especially if you're first starting out. Buying the high-risk stuff is for people who have the extra cash to just toss out the window if it goes south in that regard. Granted, it won't be like you're sleeping on the street bad, because you will still get some money back. There are safeguards legally for people for that now, but you do want to be careful about what you invest in. Always, first off, know the company you're investing in, know what their business is, know what the news going on in that sector is. Always be aware of current events. But, like I said, this is essentially my goal, is to make this channel self-sufficient. And that is to invest in companies, especially gaming companies, things that I actually have stuff to do, because I'm a gamer on this channel. I do games, I do reaction videos. So, having an investment on it to be able to say, okay, I don't like what this game did last time. I want it fixed. I want this product fixed. I want to do something. And again, that's what having a share in these companies will do for you, especially if you start having a sizable share. It will definitely help there. And it's something that I would definitely, again, like I said, I would definitely recommend. Especially people like PewDiePie. Oh God, you know, where YouTube is kind of like shiting on him. If PewDiePie decided to actually invest in Google, oh lords, they'd be screwed. Good luck. Good luck if Pew decides, I'm gonna invest money in Google. I'm now going to own a whole bunch of shares in Google. Sorry, I'm being distracted by Cat that is playing with my studio light behind the monitor here. But, I mean, that's literally one of the biggest things. I mean, honestly, yeah, that's essentially the point. And I would recommend any small YouTuber in doing this idea. And like I said, you don't have to be uber rich. Get yourself something, especially like Robinhood, which is free. Plus, like I said, it comes with a referral feature, for crying out loud. It's like, oh, here's a free share if you refer someone through your link, and then there you go. Get them like 20 friends, you get 20 free shares. There you go. Get yourself started right there. But that literally is going to be kind of the future of this channel specifically, and myself. I'm going to be trying to invest money in the stock market. And thankfully, I grew up learning in the stock market. I grew up on business, surprisingly enough. My parents ran a home business for themselves. My mother made sure that I read the whole Rich Dad Poor Dad series. I've spent pretty much my entire childhood learning about the investment world and stuff like that. Granted, I didn't go anywhere, but that was mostly because after my mom died, my dad wasn't really supportive of that idea. And at that point, Robin Hood hadn't existed yet. So definitely, if you do want to try this, I will leave my Robin Hood link down below. I will make sure that you guys get a chance to try this. And like I said, if you don't want to sink your own money, don't worry about it. Obviously they're going to ask you for some information. It's a brokerage app. It's literally a brokerage, so they have to report stuff to the IRS. So they're going to ask for that kind of information. So be prepared for that. But, I mean, that's pretty much the goal of what I'm looking at for this channel. Is taking what money I can, investing it where I can. Not just in equipment in this case, but literally in companies. So that I can get a passive income coming in that will help fund this channel. So that I'm not just trying to fund it on retail worker wages. But that way, not only can I get passive income going, but who knows, if we get enough YouTubers actually doing this, we might actually be able to change a lot of these industries. We'll see. We'll see. Like I said, a lot of people are scared to death of the stock market. In some cases for good reasons, because of the stories from 1929. But like I said, a lot of that was kind of fixed. There are laws in place now that protect stockholders and stuff like that. So, anyway, I'm sorry that if I'm a little incoherent. I'm a little tired. I'm a little sleepy. I might make another video that's a little more coherent. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Stay safe out there.